Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Thursday night live streaming Strumstick lessons. And tonight we're going to work on a song rather than continuing our discussion of song making. We've covered a bunch of material on the song making, and I think let that digest for a while and give you all a chance to work on whatever you're interested in working on in that department on your own. And of course, you can ask me any questions you want at info@strumstick.com. And we will probably revisit song making a little farther down the line. But like I said, definitely check with me if you've got questions or having problems with any of that. Or if you're especially happy with the way something's working out, let me know. So tonight we're going to work with we're going to use Kenny Loggins' wonderful House at Pooh Corner, Loggins and Messina song, which lies really nicely on the Strumstick and is a good example of being able to work the chords and then pulling bits of melody out while you're doing the chords at times too. And so we'll work our way through from the beginning. And it's got a bunch of different sections, so I'll have several screens I need to switch among in order to get all the pieces in for that. So bear with me when I do some logistics there. And just a reminder, there will be no lesson on October 15th. As we mentioned before, and I just wanted to have that posted here. I'm going to move that down so it's mostly out of the way, right down on the very bottom there, so it doesn't get in the way of the Strumstick. And let's just jump right in. Now, this song they've done this, if you look on YouTube, you can see there's a number of different versions of the song, ways that they've done it. The recording that we're most familiar with is a lot slower than the way they do it live. Live, it's a little more medium tempo. And the recording is distinctly slow. So we're going to do it a little more lively tempo than the recording. And if you look at the top of the chords, it's the first line is D. Oh, that's the wrong verse here. Let's see. Let me get, there we go. Let me get verse 1 up, and that's, we have D, E minor, F sharp minor, and B minor. And that happens many times in the song, so let's just take a look at that. We've got, D, we mostly finger this way, but I think for here we're going to finger it this way to get the F sharp note happening in the bass instead of in the treble, at least to start. And that gives us a rising bass line when we go to the E minor, where we're going to finger the third fret note on the third string rather than on the first string. Remember, both of those are E minor, they're equivalent. But this gives us a rising bass line, which continues to rise as we play the F sharp minor. And I think you can see that clearly there. Once more. My third finger is blocking your view of that string, but it's not doing anything. It's a bar on all three strings, or just the first two strings, plus pinky at third fret on the third string. And just move that whole form up another fret, so the second fret for the F sharp minor, and then B minor. So you have boom, 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 in the apparent bass line there. Oh, sorry. And that's that first line. Christopher Robin and Pooh walked along, and I walked along. Christopher Robin and I walked alone. So it's sung in the first person of Pooh in the first verse. Christopher Robin and I walked alone under, then G, branches lit up by the moon. Branches lit up by the moon. You could do this G, branches, or branches lit up by the moon, which is closer to the melody. And I might be simplifying the melody a little there. You can listen to the recording to get it really right. Branches lit up by the moon, branches lit up by the moon. And there's a little interlude, G, D, G. Now you could finger that interlude a number of different ways because the actual guitar sound on it is more like, and that's fingering this this G fingering at the 3rd fret, and then moving it down 1 fret, which is sort of a D, and then to here, which is another G. But that's a nice melodic and play that lightly with a little, maybe cut it off right at the very end. So I'm doing, and then cutting it off, and then letting it ring on the 3rd G. Bum, 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 bum. And you could use just, you know, G, D, G. You could use other fingerings of G, D, G in there for that. Or you could just play just single notes. And again, cutting it off and maybe giving a little vibrato wiggle, which is almost unnoticeable. I have a little reverb on. And then the next line, posing our questions, kind of comes in at the tail of the G. Bum, 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 posing. Right at the end, I guess. Bum, bum, posing our questions to Al and Eeyore as our days disappeared all too soon. Now, here I just did it as boom, boom. So you're not doing the exact same 2 times in a row. Boom, boom. And if you listen to the different recordings, Kenny Loggins, it plays a number of different little beautiful little guitar harmonies in those corresponding places in the song. And some of them are a little different, and some recordings or some videos of him, it's different than other times. So this is not exactly the notes that he's playing on any given specific time, but it's representative. So let's look at the first. Let's try that together. And I want to say one other thing is we're doing early chord changes, anticipated chord changes through this, so that the up strum before the 4 beat. If I was going, it's actually 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so it's really 2 beats per chord. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Okay, but with the up strum, 1 and 2 and 3. So it's on the and after 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3. So rather than the E minor coming on the 3 beat, it's coming on the and before the 3 beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And I'll do that once more very slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So each of those chord changes after the starting D is coming in a half beat early compared to being a change right at the beginning of each measure. So da 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 da, and then whatever the interlude is there. Okay, so let's try playing that together. I'm going to give you a count. It'll be like 1 2 3 4 1 2 ready go. So we'll try this and we'll just do that. The first 2 lines, G, E minor, F sharp minor, B minor, G, A, and then the D, and either do the little ornament at the end or not. 1 2 3 4. Okay, and then the second line's exactly the same. 1 2 ready go. Da-da-da, questions to Al and Eeyore as our days disappeared all too soon. And that's the simple beginning of it right there. Then the second part, but I wandered much further today than I should, and I can't seem to find my way back to the wood, which is kind of like the second half of the verse. But I wandered much further today than I should. And again, early chord change. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And this time it's 4 beats on each chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and... Now, okay, and then the G comes on the 1 beat. This is a subtlety, and you don't have to do it exactly this way, but I wandered much further today than I should, and I can't seem to find my way back to the wood. So the G is right on top of the beat. Can't seem to find my way back to the wood. The G's on top, and I think the E minor is also. Can't seem to find my way back to the wood. It is. So the G's right on top of the beat, and the E minor is right on top of the beat, but the A is that half beat early again. So it's F sharp, let's take it from the B minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the F sharp minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I would stop at 4 there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that little subtle shift from the anticipated chord to the chord on the beat for 2 of them, the G and the E minor, and then back to the anticipated, it's a really delightful treat for the ear that you don't notice it. You're listening to the song, you're listening to the words, you're listening to the great harmonies and stuff there. But it's like it's one of those little subtle things that gives a sort of an organic feel to a good song where it's not, everything's not always the same. In subtle ways, things are being different, give it life. So, and now we go to the chorus. The chorus is D, B minor, G, A, D, I'm sorry, F sharp minor, D, F sharp minor, G, A, D, F sharp minor. Now you could finger that F sharp minor a couple ways if you're doing this D. Help me if you, I think that's probably the nicest way with the note in the bottom string. Help me if you can, I've got to get. But you could also do this. Help me if you can, I've got to get. Now this is, once I leave the D, help me if. Now I'm going to do that same fingering, move it up 1 fret for G, and move it up 1 whole fret for A. Now that means that, let's say, well, let's look at this. We've got F sharp minor. My pinky is at fret number 1, 2, 3, 4. I play the G, it's at fret 5. I play the A, I move the first finger up 1 whole fret. That makes it hop over this extra fret here. So it actually, the pinky covered 2 frets there, but the spacing between the fingers stays the same. F sharp minor, G, A. Okay? So technically, if you moved 1 fret up from the G, you could argue that this finger should move 1 fret up also, but now it's playing an A minor chord instead of an A major chord, and that's not the way the guy wrote the song. So, help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by 1. You'll be surprised at how much to be done. So that's that chord pattern, but you don't have to do that rising bass line. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by 1. Oh, sorry. Help me if you can, I've got to get. That's what the bass line is doing there. Help me, okay, help me Sorry, I played it wrong. Help me if you can, I've got to. That's the correct harmony. Help me if you can, I've got to get. And the reason that's interesting is that's kind of an aside there, just playing those notes singly. Remember, you can play any note on the first string that you're playing on the third string. You could play just octave pairs. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by one. There's some nice harmonies that happen there. And since this happens several times in the song, one of the times you might, instead of going, help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by one. Maybe as it repeats. You also had, help me, what was it? Help me if you can, I've got to get, and that gives you. Help me if you can. As the voice goes up, dun, 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 the bass line here. Boom, 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 boom. So there you're using the strumstick to create a harmony with the voice, which happens automatically many times anyway. But sometimes it's nice to intentionally pull those bass notes out. By the same token, help me if, completely different harmony effect with the strumstick note there turning to here. Now it's a high voice over my voice instead of in the same range. Help me if, help me if, help me if, help me if. I actually find it easier to sing that if note when I'm playing this note. Help me if you can. Let's see. Help me if you can. I've got to get. So you could do that same with the first finger on the first string instead of on the third string. Okay? Now that chord line is that you hear that in many, many songs, that in different rhythms and in different spacings and stuff, but that's a kind of a common chord progression. And having those several different harmony ways of adding that to your voice is really handy. And the other thing that occurs there is, let's see, is to go to this F sharp minor. So you have again this. Help me if you can, I've got to get. But it's happening on the higher string. Now, when you play that G, there's some of the chords that he plays in this are slightly modified chords, like maybe a major seventh or a minor seventh here and there, instead of a straight major chord or a straight minor chord, which gives it a little bit of a jazz chord feel if you listen to the guitar part. We could play, instead of the G, we could play E minor as a substitute for the G. Now, E minor is the relative minor of G. If you remember, let's see if I can grab that D key block. It may be hidden somewhere behind. It's behind something. Let's see if I bring that up, if it appears. There it is. Okay, and I'm going to move this over to here. So this was our relative chord positioning in key of D, where we had the D in the middle is the 1 chord, and the G is the 4 chord, and the A is the 5 chord, and then right below the D is the B minor, and that's the relative minor of D, and right below the G is E minor, which is the relative minor of G. And if we were in key of G, the G would be the 1 and the E minor would be the 6. But anyway, whenever you play a G, anytime on the strumstick, Bob McNally gives you 100% permission to substitute an E minor if you like the way it sounds. Now, someone might tell you, you can't do that. that was a G. You played an E minor. And you can just say, look, Bob McNally said it was okay to do it, so go argue with Bob. And that will be true in many situations. You can always substitute the relative minor for the major or vice versa. Now, you may or may not like the way it sounds when you do that, but harmonically, you can almost always get away with it. Stylistically, you may not be able to. The minor chord that was written might have been so important to the harmony structure of the song that substituting the relative major just feels like the air went out of it, or vice versa. But in this case, we have, so we're still on this, help me if you can. If I do the E minor, can, help me if you can. In that case, I'd be moving this fingering down 1 fret. Help me if you can. See, now that and this are almost the same. And that's the, do you remember when we did Don't Stop Believing? Strangers waiting, rocking down the boulevard. That's that same, that's that E minor to G change. And it does the same thing in the melody in that song as it does here. Help me if you can, I've got to get. Help me if you can, I've got to get. So it's a little smoother change from the F sharp minor. And I've got to get. That's a little smoother than help me if you can, I've got. It's kind of a little break. It kind of turns at a sharper angle when you play the G and then go to the A. And that G to A is a that's a good 90-degree turn there. Whereas F sharp minor to E minor feels like slanting off a little, and then E minor to A feels like slanting off a little. And it has to do with which notes you're changing and which notes are staying the same on the strum stick as you make the chord changes. But that's just my subjective description of that. But no one will understand what you say if you say, oh, G to A, that's a right angle chord change. We'll just keep that amongst ourselves here. Okay, so we've got, Heather said, we can do what we want. We are poets, we do what we want. Unless we don't like it, in case we do what they tell us to do. Okay, so we've got, let's get to the actual chorus section here. Back, scroll up to here. Chorus. Okay, now, so here we have, help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by 1. And can you hear I'm doing the anticipated chord changes all through there? Da 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 da. Now here we have 3 lines in a row with exactly the same chord changes in exactly the same places rhythmically. This is a fine spot to either do the same exact rhythm all 3 times to set up the whatever you do a little different when you go to the next part, or to change this rhythm a little bit each time you do it. Da 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 da. See, I just stopped there. Da 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 da, and I said da da to show the melody, but I just did 1 strum in the F sharp minor. Back to the house. Actually, it's back to the da da. I left off the last up strum. This is what it was. Da 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 da. Or try shifting the beats to on top of the chord once and see what happens. Back to the house at Pooh Corner by 1. And sing the melody on top of the beat too. Back to the house at Pooh Corner by 1. And that requires a little pause. Instead of back to the house at Pooh Corner by 1, it goes back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. And it puts an emphasis on house. Back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. And if you've got a good, strong voice, it's a good place to punch that note out. Back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. You could do a little, emoting with the voice on that. Or if you're doing, you could do a double time for this. So help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. There, I did the E minor instead of the G. I wasn't even thinking about it. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. And I'm doing a right hand mute for that. Let me get that so you can see I'm muffling with the right hand. And I'm strumming mostly the two bottom strings. I might hit the first string once in a while. So I'm really only hearing. And I don't know if you notice, I'm doing a little, I couldn't stop myself, I'm doing a little lifting of the chord where the anticipated beat would be. And as we've seen before, wherever you have an anticipated beat, you could also do a chord lift there. I wasn't even thinking about doing that here, but I did it sort of instinctively. So let's do it. Help me, help me. That's it. Wow, what is it? Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by one. So it's just a different feel of emphasis when you do that lift. There's a lot of words happening there, and the melody is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, is moving around a bit. So you might not need to do that much. I think that double time works pretty nice there. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. You'd be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the D's in the high. This song's a little high for me in this tuning. Too bad, so sad. We'll do the best you can. Count all the D's in the high. So that's F sharp minor. And if you're doing the muffling here, back to do 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 do, or do 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 do. Let's see the muffling with those chords. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There's so much to be done. Then the F sharp minor. Let the chords ring there, I would suggest, because it gives a little shift. And sometimes it's fun, because when you can hear this better when you're learning it, this thing I'm going to say, which is sometimes you don't sing, and let's hear what the strum stick is singing, because the strum stick is always, certain notes will stand out depending on the chord fingering. A lot of times it's the note on the first string. Sometimes it could be the note on the third string, depending on how you strum even. But a note will stand out usually from each chord, so you'll hear a sort of relative harmony, almost like the strum sticks sing in harmony with you. So listen to the harmony. So the melody, let's take for just a count all, da 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 da. That's the melody. Da 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 da. And the strum stick going. That's what it sounds like to me. Almost like it goes up first. But if I finger different chords there. So you can also choose your chord fingerings deliberately to work the harmony interrelationship between what the strum stick's doing and your voice. Now this is getting subtle, but there's nothing wrong with getting subtle. We're going to have some long winter nights coming up on us with nothing to do but sit by the fire and have wine and play Strumstick. So you can get into subtle in those times. But using the Strumstick to harmonize with your voice is really fun. And you can go even farther with that by playing, let's take, if we were this chord, for those chords. That's what the first string is playing. Help me if you, help me if you can. Oh, sorry. Help me if you. So it's, I got to get my notes right. Okay. Help me. Should we do the D? Let's do it that way. Help me if you can, I've got to bet. Help me if you can, I've got to get. You could play those first string notes all by themselves. Help me if you, help me if you can, I've got to get. Help me if you can, I've got to get. Help me if you can, I've got to get. Help me if you can, I've got to get. And that's one of the way you trick yourself into variations, is by making those little experiments. So then we were on Count on the Bees in the Hive. I shifted sections there. Count the bees, da, 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 da. So we're singing, count all the bees in the hive, 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 hive. Count all the bees in the hive. So, count all the bees in the hive. Count all the bees in the hive. Or, count all the bees in the hive. Remember, that's a B minor. So you could finger this F sharp minor. Count all the bees in the hive. Count the clouds from the sky. Or do it, count all the bees in the hive. Chase all the stars from the sky. So I did one F sharp minor, B minor fingering for the first pair, and then let's see, I'm gonna get my finger over here. So for this F sharp minor, B minor, I did one fingering, and for this one before it, I did a different fingering. So that's another nice way to make variation and to hear different harmonies coming out. So count all the bees in the hive. Now, if we were doing the muffled strum coming into this, it would make sense to do that as very open strums. The next time this comes around in the song, you could do your open strums on Help Me If You Can, I've Got to Get Back. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at Blue Corner by 1. You'll be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive. Chase all the clouds from the sky. Back to the dead. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. And we have an out-of-key chord change here going to the C, which is that little distinctive chord you hear. And you could follow that with an A if you want to help resolve it back into the key. So let's take that, the Count All the Bees in the Hive. Count all the bees in the hive. Chase all the clouds from the sky. And now we have G. Back to the days, back to the days. G to A is one way. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. And now you're right here for the C fingering. So the fingering is the same as the bar G. Move up to bar A. Move up one more for bar B minor. And then lo and behold, one more for bar C major. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and... Christopher Robin. It holds the B minor. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. And I'm resolving it with the A before I come back into the next verse. But you could hold it there. Pooh. What was it? Back to the days of Christopher Robin and Pooh. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be the transition to the next verse. Okay, so we covered quite a bit there. What are we at? About 8:35. Okay, let's go to verse number 2. If there are any questions, flash them up on the chat, please, on what we've done so far. Let me move that over a little bit so we can see that a little better. Okay. All right. So second verse, Winnie the Pooh. Now it goes into the third person telling the story. It was I, Christopher Robin, and I at the beginning. So first it's Winnie the Pooh telling the story, and now it's the narrator telling the story, who maybe it looks like it's probably Christopher Robin, because he came to me asking for help and advice. So we shift from Pooh talking to Christopher Robin talking, and since that the whole story of Winnie the Pooh, if about anything, it's about the friendship and relationship between Christopher Robin and Pooh. It's a very nice artistic symbolism to tell it as Pooh and tell it as Christopher. So it's a very thoughtfully written song. Winnie, this is the same as the first verse exactly, chord-wise. Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do. Got a honey jar stuck on his nose. Wait, is that? Yeah. So that's the. Wait a minute here. Oh yeah, good. Okay, yeah, good. So I have these verses. There's only 2 verses, and I sometimes think that when I'm fooling around, I've fooled around with the song. I've never arranged it to sing myself, but when I fool around with it, I tend to sing the Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do verse as though it was the first verse, because that's the one that sticks in my head more. So for a second, I thought I had misplaced the verses on you, but I didn't. Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do. Got a honey jar stuck on his nose. La, da, da. And then. So now this so he came, the D chord, let me get there we go, this D, so he came, that D really belongs over the came. So he came to me asking for help and there's no for, asking help and advice. So that D is actually, so he is actually happening in the space of that last G there. G, D. So it's honey jar stuck on his nose. So he is on that last G. Stuck on his nose. So he came to me asking help and advice. And from here no one knows where he goes. Again, whatever the exact melody is there. So that's just a little thing there, is that let's use this hand here. So the D, the D really belongs over the came, and the so he is happening when this last G of G, D, G, the ornament. And you could just finger the regular G, D, G if you wanted, okay? I like this one. And then it goes the same as the second part of the first verse. So I sent him, goes, so I. Now the so I happens in the space while that D is ringing, because I think you should go just bum, bum, maybe with a little cut on the G, bum, bum, or a muffle on the right hand, or cut it off with the left hand. But I would say let the D ring. You could go. So I sent him to. I like it better ringing out. So I sent him to ask of the owl if he's there, how to loosen a jar from the nose of a bear. And with the early chord changes again. So I sent him to ask of the owl. So I sent him to ask of the owl if he's there, how to loosen the jar. And I think we've got sent him to ask of the owl if he's there, how to loosen. You could make jump from the F sharp minor. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and loosen the jar from the nose of a bear. You could do all early changes there, or you could push the E minor to the 1 beat. So I sent him to ask of the owl if he's there, how to loosen the jar from the nose of a bear. And you could delay the A chord change. This A you could push later to bear, or make the chord change on nose. And you could also put how to loosen the jar from the nose of a bear. Now that's, I'm shifting from E minor to E major, and put the E major on nose where the A is, and that's the sand. There we go. So E minor, and then make the E be the A be E major on nose, and then the A change on bear, and that's the E major. Now we don't have the note that officially makes it a major chord. It's just the 1, the 5, the 1, the 5, and the 1. The third of the chord isn't there, but it functions as though it was there, and it's different sound than the E minor. So that would be how to loosen the jar from the nose of a bear. Loosen the jar from the nose. Sorry, loosen the jar. Loosen a jar from the nose of a bear. So help me, and then the D on so really should be on help. Again, the so is a pickup. So help me if you can. I've got to get. And that goes the same way as the whole long section we just worked on. Again, and that would be, you can see that at the end of the chorus. Help me if you can. I mean, in the beginning of the chorus section, that would be the same. But now I want to jump to the ending of the song. There we go. And we'll take it from the last of the, we'll take it from the Count All the Bees in the Hive part. So we had the whole chorus. Help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house. What do I want? Much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive. Same idea. Count all the clouds from the sky. Now, G, A, B minor. And here I'm doing the bar ones. And I really like this, which sounds a lot like don't fear, Reaper. If you've heard that phrase before, Blue Oyster Cult. But back to the days of Christopher Robin. Back to the days of Christopher Robin. Back to the days of Christopher Robin. Oh, sorry, the third time they sing. Back to, so do it all together. Back to the days of Christopher Robin. Back to the days of Christopher Robin. Back to the days of Pooh. And then they do oohs. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And they would play the B major chord. Do, doom, do, do, doom, do, doom, do, do. Instead of do, it's the B minor. Do, 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 do. Do, do is the minor. Do, 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 do. there's the major. So we're missing the third again, but that's the way they play it. Now, what I suggest, I really like the Back to the Days of Christopher Robin, Back to the Days of Christopher Robin, Back to the Days of Christopher Robin and Pooh, and then end on the A chord. If you want to do that little jazz chord in there, that out of key chord one more time. So you could even do the oohs. You could back to the days of yeah, the oohs don't work there. Forget what I said that. Yeah, it's not going to work with their ooh ending. I hadn't tried that before. Failure on that one. You got to try. You never know. So there we have the basic structure and all that for the whole song. Now, it said that there are melody bits that you could put in. If you sit down and figure out, mostly for yourself, I'll show you some hints on it, the basic melody of the song, you could start from... So this is just, you can see it right, you take it from the video. That's open. That happens several times, but you could also start it from the open string. Oh, sorry. That's just an octave lower than. Okay, so there's two groups of the melody for that first line. Now, so if you're fingering E, E minor, F sharp minor, B minor, how many of those notes can you get in there? Now, the E minor is here. So that's the next note. Just finger the melody and what you can of the chord. So now this would, you don't have to do what I'm doing now, but watch this. Here's the E minor. And then I put this middle finger in. And then, sorry, that's, and I'm changing that to, while sort of struggling to hold the E minor, but conceptually we're taking da, 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 and overlaying whatever the melody notes exactly are there. So what I've done is change the chords. So I'm fingering this chord, which is sort of like an A chord, an A major, not an E minor, but it lets me get the melody in. Using the drone a lot. And now that note is the same as this note, which is good because that lets me get the F sharp minor chord coming in and still playing that note. Let's get to the, let's bring the verse in so we can know exactly what we're talking about here. Christopher Robin and I walked along. So Now, do you go from here, third string, I walked to second string, first fret, or I walked do you just move that finger up one on the third string, because that note is the same as this note. So, to finger the B minor this way if you want lone. I walked alone, all on the third string. Fourth fret, fifth fret, open. But you could just I walked alone and depart from the melody so you get that nice rich B minor with the note on the bottom. I walked alone. It's thin. When you finger the B minor this way, lone, it's kind of thin sounding. That's kind of like more blended. This is you know, an unaged wine. This is a nice Cabernet that's been hanging around for a bunch of years. I walked alone. So I walked alone. So you're switching to a harmony note on the drumstick then instead of the actual melody. But that whole sequence now would be. Let me start with this D. I couldn't stop myself. I went to a D instead of the B minor. And there I just played the melody against the drone. But what I was trying to show you was for that first sequence. And the chord there's gotta and under branches lit up by the moon, branches lit up by the moon, and it's branches lit. If you're going to finger the G chord, branches lit. So I'm going to use the pinky there, so I've got the third finger ready to do the second fret note. Branches lit, and I might have both fingers on at once there. Branches lit, and then A chord, up by the, that's easy on the A chord, up by the moon, and then that's the note that you're on the D. So half the notes for that melody fall within the chord or one note away from within the chord, and the other ones you have to do a little manipulating. But that whole sequence then would be and if I play it fast, and that's what we had originally done. Now, first of all, it's hard to go from here. Plus, we've landed the melody down low, so you might want to go to move this thing over to the third string to keep it in the same register. Or just go and do the two chord ending like we're doing on the second verse. All right, I hope that's not too confusing. The similar idea with the melody, working it in, you would have to mess with the chords more. So this is going like D chord, just open everything. And then here I'm fingering an A chord. D, D, A. And that A is substituting where the E minor was. Now the F sharp minor, now we go to this F sharp minor, because remember that's like where we went. All right, so we have and I'll do that slow for the El camera. So basically I transferred that melody. I went up an octave, but when I get down to here, parts of it are simply an octave higher than they are here because I have moved it up an octave. So that's how you work the melody in to those chords. Now then, so I can't seem to find my way back to the wood. Can't seem to find my way. I think it's can't seem to find my way. I think it's just 4 notes there. Can't seem to find my way. Can't seem to find my way back to the woods. 3 notes. 3 different notes. So, but what's that? And the chords there are wandered today much further. So the only change you'd have to make, because the B minor, they're right in the B minor. But that second string open again is the same as the 4th fret note on this F sharp minor. So I can just let go of this and just do the bar as that form of B minor. I could throw this in to make the chord a little fuller. Back to the woods. But you could just go to the bar. Back to the woods. And I can't seem to find my way back to the woods. Now that note there, this is one of the ways to finger A. Looks like a guitar D chord, but at the 1st fret of the strum stick, and it includes this C sharp note, A, B, C sharp. That is the melody note there from the A chord, but you could also do it from here. This note here on this A, remember the bar at the 4th fret, the pinky is at fret number 7. That note is the same as that note. I can't seem to find my way. Can't seem to find my way. That's all in the G. I've got 2nd string. Can't seem to find over to the 3rd string. You can't see the pick there. Here we go. Can't seem to find. Can't seem to find my way. That's 2nd string open and then 1st fret. Can't seem to find my way back to the whatever the melody is there. Can't seem to find my way back to the So there you got the idea of how you can work bits of the melody, and I'll let you work out the last parts of it yourself. Find the melody, experiment till you find the melody. You might find a different melody than I do. I'm sort of notorious for modifying melodies in my head and then thinking that's the real melody. So trust the videotape better than you trust me. It's the videotape of Kenny Loggins singing it. And what I'm going to do at this point, I don't see any questions. So we're going to stop there, and what I'll do is I'll kind of mess around with these chords a little bit stylistically, so you can get some other ideas for ways you could approach it, just to kind of play us out. And there will be a lesson next week, which will be the 8th of October, but there will not be a lesson on the 15th, but then we'll be back the week after that, which would be, I guess, the 22nd. So I hope everyone is well and happy and content enough, and hang in there with everything. And we'll see you next Thursday. So here we go, and good night. Sorry, count all the bees in the hive. Forget what the chords are already. I play this a little differently sometimes. Let me refresh myself on the chorus. And that's an F sharp minor. So let's take it again. Okay, from the top. What is it? And back to the days, G. Something like that. So there's the chords, there's some rhythms, and there's some bits of melody, and take them and run with them, and have a nice time rereading Winnie the Pooh, maybe to your kids. Good night.